It's November 1944, a cold, moonless night over the Rhine Valley. Lieutenant Ed Schluter is flying a Bristol Beaufighter, hunting for Nazi planes in the darkness. He's a member of the 415th Night Fighter Squadron. He's tired, he's on edge. Suddenly, his radar observer shouts over the intercom, "Contact! There are lights at 3 o'clock. Schluter looks out the window. He expects to see the exhaust flames of a German bomber. Instead, he sees something that makes no sense. 8 to 10 glowing red balls of fire, flying in a perfect formation, moving incredibly fast. Schluter pushes the throttle, turning his heavy fighter to chase them. But the lights don't behave like planes. They accelerate instantly, vanish, and then reappear. They seem to be playing with him. He calls ground control. "Do you see these bogies on radar?" Ground control replies, "Negative. The sky is empty. You are alone." But he wasn't alone. And he wasn't crazy. Today on Verified World War II Stories, we're opening one of the strangest files in military history. Long before Roswell, long before the term flying saucer was invented, Allied pilots over Europe and the Pacific reported seeing unidentified flying objects. They called them Foo Fighters. Was it a secret Nazi weapon? A bizarre weather phenomenon? Or was it something else, watching the war from above? Let's look at the verified evidence. To understand the Foo Fighter mystery, you have to understand the mind of a night fighter pilot. Flying at night in 1944 was terrifying. You couldn't see anything. You relied on primitive radar and your own eyes. Every shadow could be an enemy plane ready to kill you. But the reports that started coming in late 1944 were different. These weren't fleeting shadows. These were sustained encounters. The term Foo Fighter came from a popular comic strip at the time called Smokey Stover, where a character often said, "Where there's Foo, there's fire." The pilots adopted it because they didn't know what else to call these things. The reports were remarkably consistent. Pilots described balls of light, usually red, orange, or white. Sometimes they flew alone, sometimes in formation. They could hover motionless and then accelerate to incredible speeds in a second. They could make 90-degree turns that would tear a normal airplane apart. And the scariest part? They seemed to be intelligent. They would follow Allied planes. They would match their speed. Major William D. Leet, a combat pilot, reported an encounter where a glowing amber light followed his B-17 bomber all the way from Austria to Italy. He tried to shake it. He dove. He climbed. The light stayed right off his wingtip as if it was magnetically attached. Then as soon as he reached the Allied base, the light shot straight up into space and disappeared. At first, the Allied High Command was terrified. They didn't think it was aliens. They thought it was Germans. Intelligence officers believed the Nazis had developed a new revolutionary weapon. Maybe a jet-powered drone. Maybe a remote-controlled device designed to blind pilots or interfere with their radar. The Germans were indeed working on advanced tech. They had the Me-262 jet fighter and the V-2 rocket. It was plausible that they had something else up their sleeve. So the Allies launched a formal investigation. They interviewed hundreds of pilots. They checked the radar logs, but then the story took a strange twist. After the war ended, American intelligence officers interrogated German Luftwaffe pilots and scientists. They asked, "Tell us about the glowing orbs. Tell us about the Foo Fighters." The Germans looked confused. They said, "We thought they were yours." It turned out that German pilots had seen the exact same things. They called them Kraut Fireballs and were terrified of them. They thought the Americans had developed a secret weapon to track them at night. So, if the Americans thought it was the Germans, and the Germans thought it was the Americans, what was it? Let's look at the scientific theories. Theory number 1, St. Elmo's fire. This is a weather phenomenon where static electricity creates a glowing plasma around the tips of airplane wings. It looks ghostly, but experienced pilots knew what St. Elmo's fire looked like. It sits on the wing. It doesn't detach, fly away in formation, and chase you. The Foo Fighters were distinct objects. Theory number 2, ball lightning. This is a rare event where a ball of electricity floats in the air. But ball lightning is unstable. It usually vanishes in seconds. The Foo Fighters were reported to follow planes for 20 or 30 minutes at a time. Theory number 3. Secret Nazi tech. This is where history meets conspiracy. There are rumors that Nazi scientists were working on anti-gravity propulsion, like the legendary device Die Glocke or the Bell, which supposedly glowed and could levitate. While the Germans did have disc-shaped aircraft designs, there is zero physical evidence they built glowing orbs that could defy the laws of physics. And if they had a weapon that could move that fast, why didn't they use it to shoot down the bombers destroying their cities? This brings us to the most important detail. The Foo Fighters never attacked. In thousands of reports, the lights never fired a weapon. They never tried to collide with the planes. They just watched. This wasn't just happening in Europe. In August 1942, aboard the USS Brome in the Pacific, sailors reported a large, silent, round object hovering over their ship before shooting away. But the most famous incident happened over American soil. February 25, 1942, the Battle of Los Angeles. Just months after Pearl Harbor, LA was on high alert. Radar picked up an unknown target. Air raid sirens wailed. Searchlights swept the sky. Thousands of people looked up and saw a large, hovering object. The U.S. Army anti-aircraft artillery opened fire, unleashing over 1,400 shells. The sky exploded with flak, but the object just kept moving slowly down the coast, seemingly undamaged. The next day, the government claimed it was a weather balloon. But a weather balloon doesn't survive that kind of firepower. The photo from that night remains one of the most famous UFO photos in history. So, what connects the Battle of LA and the Foo Fighters? Some suggest mass hysteria and combat fatigue. When you're under constant stress, your brain can play tricks on you. You see a star or the planet Venus and think it's moving. But can that explain why radar operators sometimes picked up ghost tracks moving at 3,000 miles per hour? Or why entire bomber crews, pilot, co-pilot, gunners all saw the same formation of lights at the same time? In January 1945, Major William Leet reported that a Foo Fighter he was watching turned into a solid, disc-shaped aircraft with a metallic shine. This takes it out of the realm of glowing gas and into solid machine. After the war, the official Robertson panel investigated the Foo Fighters. They couldn't explain them, so they buried the reports. The term Foo Fighter faded away, replaced by flying saucer after 1947. But the descriptions remained the same: glowing orbs, impossible speed, silent hovering. Skeptics say it was Jupiter, or reflections on the cockpit glass, or secret German flares. Believers say that maybe, just maybe, the greatest conflict in human history attracted attention from elsewhere. A British pilot who encountered the lights gave a chilling quote: "I felt like a bug under a microscope. They weren't fighting us. They were studying us. We will likely never know the truth." The official files are either lost, destroyed, or still classified. But the testimony of the men who fought the war remains. These were men trained to identify every aircraft in the sky, and they all said the same thing: it wasn't one of ours, and it wasn't one of theirs. What do you think? Were the Foo Fighters secret Nazi tech? A natural phenomenon we still don't understand, or was the war being watched by a third party? Let me know your theory in the comments. In the next video, we're coming back down to Earth to look at the secret chemical fuel that powered the Blitzkrieg. We know about the tanks and planes, but did you know the German army was fueled by a tiny pill? We're going to uncover the story of Pervitin, the drug that kept the Wehrmacht awake for days. Click subscribe so you don't miss that verified story. See you in the next one.